It's increasing the number of licenses a retailer. So the ones that already have like multiple establishments.
And we're live.
Ahoy.
Ahoy.
Hi, y'all.
Hi, this is James O'Keefe, captain of the Massachusetts Pirate Party, and I'm joined today by Quartermaster Joe and First Officer Steve.
Howdy-ho. Sorry.
No, please. I should have paused. It's the election coming up this Tuesday. So we're going to go over a couple of announcements and then look at how our members have indicated they feel about the various ballot questions. We'll talk about some of the candidates who are running for constitutional offices. Though we don't have a position on those, but we'll just kind of brainstorm that. And then there's been some interesting layoffs in social media spaces, so we'll talk about that as well. How are the two of you doing, by the way?
It's warm.
Oh my, is it warm?
Yeah, it's like I think we hit 76 today, which is a little unusual. It's a little unusual for November.
Absolutely. So for folks who don't know, we have our own elections coming up. And if you're interested in running for any of our Pirate Council offices, which includes captain, first officer, quartermaster, activism director, and so on and so forth, we'd love to have you throw your hat in the ring. And we love to have more people involved. There's a link in the description to that. Unfortunately, this weekend, but this weekend is the Boston Anarchist Book Fair. We unfortunately will not have a table because they ran out of space. So we're going to get together with meshboston.net and have a table there and tell people about mesh networking and things they can do to build a community internet. And unfortunately, we didn't have a table, but you can still come down to the Democracy Center in Harvard Square this weekend from 10 a.m. to 5 p.m. And meet all the different groups that are going to be there. Additionally, there are a set of workshops that are going to be streamed, so you can go and participate in those. And one of them will be by one of the organizers at meshboston.net. So come on down and enjoy those, talking with people and picking up some books. I know, Steve, you've gotten a bunch of good books from there.
Oh, it's my favorite book shopping day of the year, or favorite book shopping weekend of the year, I should say. But
So we do have the results of our 2022 ballot question survey. We had asked questions about question 1, question 2, 3, and 4. In terms of the actual votes for question 1, 25%, 60% were yes, 1% was none of the above, and 20% was none of the above, and 20% did not express an opinion. And question 1, for those of you who don't know, would put a surcharge of 4% on incomes over $1 million. Question. Yeah, sorry, go.
Just to go in there, there's been a lot of advertising saying that, hey, that it's going to affect all your homes and stuff like that. And I am so glad that the people who are putting forward question 1 shot back and said that they're lying to you, that it's only going to affect like literally 1% of homes in all of Massachusetts. And there's only like so many $1 million homes. Like, it's not going to affect your income. It's just going to affect the income of the filthy rich. And that being said, you should definitely go yes on that question.
I mean, it's also My understanding of real estate sales on a personal basis is it's your net amount. So if you bought a house for $400,000, for example, which is crazy but not inconceivable, and then you sold it for $1.3 million, that would only be an increase of $900,000. And if your income was, you're on a fixed income or something like that, of say $50,000, you're definitely not going to hit the limit there. Something to keep in mind.
I think it was more or less, if you think of it like the capital gains tax, when you sell your property, what money you're making. And if you immediately take that money and go and get another house, then you're not gaining that money. So that's not, it's a non-factor for the most part. If you're using that money to like make sure you have a new place to live, then you're not gaining that money for profit. It was focused on the profits, how much money your income. It's the income part of it. So if you're not using that to live sweet and sip drinks out of a coconut, it's not really a factor.
Or flip properties or something.
Millionaires should pay their taxes.
Yeah,
Absolutely.
less loopholes.
And as we pointed out in the past, in a past pirate news, if you look at income if you look at taxes as a percent of income, as income increases, the people who pay the highest taxes are people who are in the lowest income bracket. They pay close to 10%, whereas a millionaire, someone who's 1%, is only going to pay, the top, 1%, half of a percent is only going to pay about 6% of their income. And that's in state income taxes, property taxes, and of course, the thing we all hate, sales taxes. So on question 2, and I'll just, question 2 would go and make sure that set a minimum threshold for dentists, for dental insurance, such that they have to pay out claims equal to that minimum threshold compared to the amount of money that is given to them for insurance. And that would set it at, I think, 83%. Am I correct on that?
It was in the 80s, but yeah, basically question 2 would limit the amount of administrative or so-called overhead costs that a dental insurance carrier could charge.
Or profit.
Could make, yeah.
Right. I mean, we've got some of these dental insurances will pay out 40% of premiums in claims. And as a result, they're pocketing, the 60%, administrative costs minus that, but that's a lot of profits. And this would make sure more of your insurance dollars go toward care. We already have this for health insurance. I believe it's 88%. It makes sense just to do it for dental insurance. And that was 100%. We're in favor of question 2.
We don't agree with scalping your Sox tickets. We're not going to let that happen to your dental insurance.
Absolutely. And the other question 4 was also a 100% for yes on question 4. That would go and ensure that someone who's undocumented in Massachusetts would be able to get a driver's license, would have to pass the driver's test, so that we know they have insurance and they've passed the test, and they're not driving illegally or in a way that could potentially cause accidents because they're not skilled enough. This is a sensible thing. And obviously, since 100% of pirates supported that, we all agree.
I mean, we're a lot of towns are, sanctuary cities, but I mean, you could kill somebody with your murder box. So a lot of cops are actually behind this too, and really want to see this happen. It's just like Jamie, you were saying it was a safety thing, and we just want to make sure that people who are out there are being safe, especially when they're behind the wheel. They're not just jumping behind the wheel, and making sure that this would just, even if they don't have proof of like a license to be here, that they still can have a path to do the right thing and get licensed to drive and everything. So
Mhm.
The thing to remember though about question 4 is that if you want to uphold the new existing law, then you have to vote yes. If you want to repeal the law the legislature approved, then you would have to vote no. So that's not exactly the best wording, and it was specifically chosen that way to encourage people to vote no, which is slimy. But anyways,
It is what it is.
yeah. So the other question is question 3. Joe, do you want to give us a summary of question 3?
certainly. So this has to do with a proposed increase in the statewide limits. But so if you vote yes, it will allow a retailer to have more licenses. It'll go from 9 to 12, and then to 15, and then to 18.
So we're talking about licenses to sell alcohol, correct?
Yes, thank you for that clarification. But here's the thing. I'm kind of flip-flopping on this one like a fish on a deck with no air. Because, yes, sure, I am fully support. If you want to go out and have a great time, sure. But the reason why I'm kind of against this one, and we didn't really get any feedback on it, but the reason why I'm against it is because it's not for new businesses, it's for existing. So what's going to happen is all the chains, all the big corporate chains that already have licenses, they're maxed out at 9, they're going to be able to get more. So what's going to happen is your 99s, your Outbacks, your pre-existing is going to get more licenses. And that just makes the mom and pop startups have that much harder of a time. So I'm actually leaning towards no, just because I'd like to see more diversity. I love being able to go and one day have Dominican food, and then have Cambodian food, and then have Italian, all in the same day.
Some other thoughts that we've gotten from people who filled out our survey on question 3, legislature did not do its job. There should be hearings on Beacon Hill and an open process. Another comment, I hate when they bundle two ideas together. Good accepting out-of-state ID, bad increase in the number of licenses, which will only hurt small independent retailers and benefit corporations.
Yeah.
In terms of our vote on question 3, it was 20% for yes, 40% no, and 40% none of the above. And one of the things we believe in is that you should always have a none of the above option, even if you only have one choice, so that you can say this person or this ballot measure is not great. I don't want to see it in there without necessarily voting no. So that's how various pirates have expressed their viewpoint on that. Some of the other questions people we have gotten on question 2, reluctant support because the legislature did not do its job and at least have a hearing. Yes, I'm generally fine with this other than 80%. How does that compare to other regulated insurance categories, which, as I said, I believe it's 88% for other health insurance. On question 1, for one of the persons who did none of the above, I'm ambivalent about the question. The tax increase doesn't actually mean that there will be funding increases. in transportation and education. The money is earmarked for that, but certainly the legislature could be like, well, we have this pot of money going towards education here. Now let us take money and shift money away from it and the other, other tax revenue. So there is that possibility. So with that, I'm just going to interject something.
Okay, I apologize.
No, that's fine. Just so you know, we created a Mastodon account. It's all the rage now. Every good pirate should do it. You can find us at social.globalpirates.net/@masspirates if you'd like to follow us on Mastodon, because, who knows what's happening with other social media. You're going to say, Joe?
Going back into that, if the legislator really makes us do it, then I have no problem slamming them with a whole bunch of ballot questions that they can't work around until we just do the budget for them. And then they can just sit there just looking dumb at each other all session long. I am completely fine with that.
Yeah.
So don't make me get angry.
Well, no, yeah, I also want to push back on that a little bit. This is one of the reasons why ballot questions exist. Although we would sometimes like the legislature to do something, they, may have other priorities or just for whatever reason not get around to doing it. Organizing a statewide ballot campaign is a big deal. It takes a ton of work. Gathering signatures just by itself takes a lot of work. So where people have the initiative and the gumption to do so, I'm quite supportive of that.
I mean, if they give us no option, obviously we need to run more pirates for state rep and state senate, and we need to make sure they win.
And
speaking of running people for office, we have 5 ballot choices for constitutional offices for the great Commonwealth of Massachusetts. Joe, you were talking about who you would vote for governor and lieutenant governor, where choices are Deal and Allen, who are the Republicans, Healy and Driscoll for the Democrats, Reed and Everett are the Libertarians.
Yes, so even though I know it is my constitutionally protected right not to share these, let me share them with you. Starting with who I vote for auditor, which would be a one James O'Keefe of Somerville. Looking at all the people who are on the auditor list, I don't really care about any of them. Sure, if I was to lean towards anyone, it would either be a Libertarian or a Green Party, Democrat and Republican. Excuse me. I'm feeling not that well when I think about them. And I just don't know anything about the Workers' Party, so, haven't really heard much. I heard some good things, but, I just don't know enough to be educated, so I elect our captain to be at the top of that.
Thanks for writing me in.
You're welcome. Thank you for allowing me to write you in by giving me your address. So that being said, I'm looking at the governor, and I actually have contacted and talked to Mr. Reed. Very good head on his shoulders. Definitely is asking when we're going to be running candidates, so he's all about giving the voters choice. And it's just a good human being in general from everything I understand about him and have read. So I'm definitely supporting the third party candidate there. From everything I've heard, I kind of like Healy personally, but I do not like Driscoll. And so there's your Democrats, and then don't get me started on the Republicans. All set.
Steve, what are you thinking for governor and lieutenant governor?
So I take a slightly different tack than Joe. I like Driscoll. To me, is one of the more pro-housing candidates on the slate. So that would make me inclined to vote for her. Actually, one of the questions I have coming out of this is, it is nice to see some of the, at this point, their political designations, but I'm wondering if, maybe the Greens regain party status after the election. What do they need? Like 3% for a statewide office to do that?
You need 3% from a statewide office in order to be ballot qualified, which means that you can accept larger donations and you get a checkoff on the voter registration ballots, but it makes it harder to run. It makes it harder to run for state, like senator, for example. And I think president too.
How does it make it harder?
Oh no, sorry. No, actually, I don't think it affects the federal offices, but I know when I was running in 2002 and 2006 for treasurer in the Greens, we had certainly in the first 2002 run, the Greens had ballot status from the Nader run. So we had to run independently. We had, 3 candidates, governor, lieutenant governor, and me for treasurer, who were all running. We had 3 separate ballot petitions we had to run. In 2006, the Green candidate did not get 3%. And so they were able to run just one nomination paper that had all 3 candidates on it. Potentially, I think all constitutional offices. The other additional changes, they had a lot more time to gather signatures than they had running in, each candidate individually. With the slate, you have till basically the end of July. But if you're a ballot qualified party, you have a shorter time window in which to gather signatures.
And what do you think for governor, Jamie?
Healy and Driscoll are going to win. I don't see any way Deal and Allen are going to win. I'll probably take a look at Reed and Everett tomorrow just to make sure, there aren't like major gaping holes in their positions that I don't like, but probably I'll vote Libertarian. Just, to throw a vote towards, a third party. Now, in terms of Attorney General, it's just Andrea Campbell for the Democrats and James McMahon for the Republicans. I know, Joe, you had thoughts about AG.
Yeah, I'm all for Campbell. She's a strong litigator and very effective at what she does. So she's won a lot of fights. And it's just a tough cookie through and through. And I think she'll do a lot of good in that position. James McMahon is nothing to shake a stick at either. But as far as like workload and getting the job done, Campbell is a really, really strong candidate. And I would love to see McMahon run on other things, but as far as who would be better for that position and overall for the whole state, I just see Campbell as more of a workhorse. Not anything, but just how good of a job she does.
And Steve, do you want to express your opinion?
Sure. I've voted for Ms. Campbell. I first, got exposure to her when she was running in the Boston mayoral race. And I like some of her positions there. So yeah, I gave her my vote for AG.
Cool. So for Secretary of State, we have longtime incumbent, many elections under his belt for Secretary of State, William Francis Galvin for the Democrats, Rayella Campbell for the Republicans, and Juan Sanchez for the Green Rainbow Party. And I'll just go in with that. I'm definitely voting Green Rainbow on that one. And there's no way in hell I would ever vote for Rayella Campbell. Literally, she's like, she's going on the whole anti-trans, anti-gay. She's just horrid. Republican MAGA culture warrior. Like, man, don't vote for her.
She's a manga hat that breathes.
Yeah, I believe I voted for Sanchez as well. Yeah, one of the, just as an aside, I know out of the two offices where there are Green Rainbow candidates running, they're both from Holyoke. I didn't realize Holyoke was a sort of a Green Rainbow hotbed, but I get the sense it is.
It has been in the past.
Okay.
I also went green on this one.
Cool. So for treasurer, we have Deborah Goldberg, who's the incumbent Democrat, and Christina Crawford, who is a libertarian. And the Republicans did not run a candidate or did not get their candidate on the ballot for treasurer. I'm going to vote third party for that one. I'll vote libertarian. Just, the Democrats going to win. There's no chance the libertarian will win in this moment. So I'll throw them a vote so they can get the 3%.
About what I'm doing.
And then finally for auditor, Joe, as you mentioned, is writing me in, which I very much appreciate. Running is Anthony Amore, who's the Republican. New candidate, Diana DiZoglio, who's a Democrat. Gloria Caballero Roca, who's, as noted, from Holyoke and is Green Rainbow. Dominic, I'm going to mess this one up.
Giannoni.
Sorry, say it, Joe.
I would pronounce it Giannoni.
Yeah, you're probably right. Dominic Giannoni, who's the Workers' Party, which is the first time, as far as I know, they are running candidates in this election, and Daniel Reek, who's the Libertarian. So for that, I'm probably, just because I'm voting Libertarian in one and Green Rainbow in another, I'll probably end up, and I'm sure Juan Sanchez will get the percent that he needs for Secretary of State, and Christina Crawford will get it for treasurer. So I'll vote for the Workers' Party to see if they can get the 3% for auditor. Nice to see 5 choices.
Yeah.
It's almost like we're in Iraq. Do you two, Steve, do you have any thoughts on that?
I'll be honest, I don't remember who I voted for auditor. No, I suspect I voted Green Rainbow.
And
quick question.
Yeah.
In terms of auditor, is that like the entry level position for most of these parties? Because everyone seems to be running for it. Why? Why auditor? Why, out of all the positions, why auditor?
So auditor is an office that very few people care about. And so I think third parties generally run someone for auditor because it's highly likely that they'll get the 3%. That said, there's 2, Green Rainbow and Workers' Party, different, but not as far from one another, say, as the Libertarians. So, we'll see if they all get the 3%, if some of them get the 3%. I don't know.
Just for the record, my first choice for auditor was actually Chris Dempsey, who was, unfortunately, he lost he was running as a Democrat, but unfortunately did not win the primary. So I was a little bummed.
Yeah, Chris Dempsey would have been a good choice.
But we are going kind of long, and we still have more to discuss. So there's been layoffs. Which should we start with, Facebook or Twitter?
Yeah, well, we can, since we're going long, we can make these quick. So first, we'll start with Meta. So, courtesy of the Boston Globe, we have learned that Meta, the parent company of Facebook and Instagram, is planning a significant layoff in the not too distant future. Their share price has fallen 73% this year, and it sounds like they are, amid share loss, amid loss of advertising revenue, they're planning to decrease headcount. So the other big tech layoff this week was of course Twitter, where their new executive the new owner, I guess, Elon Musk, having overpaid for Twitter, and looked at the fact that 90% of their revenue was coming for advertising. He felt that he needed to reduce headcount and expand revenue, and so he started off by just basically firing half of the technical staff. And of course, seeing it on Twitter, maybe it's true, maybe it's not true, but I gather that a number of people there wasn't really an announcement of this. People just found out when they were locked out of their email accounts or their laptop, say, remotely wiped itself, which is, a pretty dysfunctional way to go. Twitter is being sued by a couple of individuals in California for, doing a mass layoff. Mass layoff is defined as at least 500 employees that constitute a third of a company. So since they let go 3,700 people and about half of the tech staff, it's a mass layoff no matter how you cut it. They are required under California and maybe federal law to provide 60 days worth of notice, which they did not. And, if these employees manage to claw back 60 days worth of pay, well, are still fired, it's Elon's going to be he may have to eat this one. We'll see what the courts say.
Yeah, the other thing that I had heard was that there were various folks whose shares were going to be vesting on November 1st, and he laid people off prior to that. And so, that's the other thing. It's like he doesn't want to have to pay it out. My understanding is like the various executives who got laid off, they all had that as part of their packages. So they probably have more leverage there, unfortunately. Mm-hmm. I find it incredibly amusing that that there was then, like, within days, they were like, rumors were coming out of, oh, well, we laid off people that we actually need. So we need to try and get them back. And apparently one of the ways they evaluated whether to keep someone was how many lines of code they went and wrote in a given period of time, where the more was the better. You're going to say something, Joe?
Yeah, I was just going to say that I find it funny that free speech cost $8.
Well, I find the whole lines of code thing incredibly hilarious. That is like so 90s. Lines of code written is not necessarily a good indicator of productivity. I mean, if you're writing a new feature, sure, you can bang out 1,000 lines of code for that new feature in no time, because you're doing it from scratch. Where you're chasing a really difficult to find and really difficult to reproduce defect, you might spend 3 weeks and the fix is 2 to 5 lines. And really, you spent a whole bunch of time figuring out of millions and millions of lines, which 2 or 3 to change. So yeah, it's really not a great measure. And this is, the whole execution of this is just, this was not thought through to any extent. I'm sorry, but for quite a few years, Bain Capital had a bad rap for just buying companies and messing with them without thinking. I think Elon might be a candidate for buying Bain Capital.
Yeah, this is definitely going to be a Harvard Business School study in what not to do.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. Maybe you should have stuck to rockets.
Mm-hmm.
And so with that, thank you very much for joining us and staying on as we went extra long. We hope you found this was useful, that we illuminated things that you may not have known about, or gave you different opinions or different perspectives than what you're used to. Please, as always, you can find us at masspirates.org, and do like, share, and subscribe. We'd love it if you signed up for our email list. We are having events coming up, and certainly in January will be our next Pirate Quarterly Conference. So we'd love for you to join us at that. So again, take care. Have a wonderful weekend. Stay safe, stay warm, and adios. And we're done.